Welcome back to the deep dive. We've all felt it, right? That nagging sense of disconnect in a story where things are happening, the events unfold, but you just don't really care why or how. You're watching a character go through the motions maybe, but it feels like their journey and the plot itself, they're like two ships passing in the night.
Yeah, completely separate.
Exactly. Both might seem fine on their own, but totally unrelated. And it leaves you feeling kind of uninvested, maybe even a bit cheated. So today, we're not just dissecting that feeling. We're hoping to uncover the storytelling secret that can turn a series of incidents into something really unforgettable, something that stirs you. What if the actual soul of a story isn't just in the twists or the characters alone, but in this invisible, maybe unbreakable bond between them? Okay, let's unpack this.
That's exactly our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're digging into insights from our source material, forging unified stories, plot and character interwoven. And it argues that, while we often talk about plot and character, the real magic happens when they're thought of as, basically one thing, indivisible.
Okay.
So we're going to explore why this connection is so vital, what goes wrong when it's missing, and really importantly, the framework this source gives for designing it effectively. Hopefully by the end, you'll have a new lens for appreciating or maybe even crafting the stories that really stick with you.
That initial feeling that something's off feeling, it's so common. Yeah. And the source material really drills down into it. It describes stories where, a protagonist gets introduced with clear traits, maybe a fascinating backstory.
Right.
But then the plot it doesn't really challenge those core parts of them. It feels like the story's running on these parallel tracks that never meet. And the character might change, sure, but it feels kind of arbitrary, unearned, almost like the writer just flipped a switch.
Yeah.
And the emotional impact just, poof, gone.
It's really fascinating how quickly that kind of disconnect leads to audience disengagement. You just tune out. When plot and character are just drifting apart, the story feels less like a whole narrative and more like, a collection of random ideas.
Yeah, scattered.
Exactly. And the source points out this isn't just like a structural issue. It's a deeper failure of meaning. You don't feel moved because there's no clear reason, no logical or emotional through line for why these specific events should lead to that specific change in that specific person. It's like watching this really complex engine humming away perfectly.
Right.
But it's not connected to the wheels, so it's not actually going anywhere you care about.
Oh, I hadn't quite thought of it like that. The failure of meaning, that really hits home why some stories feel so hollow. Okay, so if that's the danger, the peril, then the ideal scenario, like our source describes it, is when plot and character are truly designed to interact, to push and pull on each other. That's when a story feels really purposeful,
right,
deeply satisfying. But how does that interaction how does it work fundamentally? What's the core dynamic that Forging Unified Stories talks about?
Well, the core insight the source really hammers home is this. Story is the constant, deliberate interaction between a character and their circumstances. It's not just a character reacting passively to stuff happening. It's a dynamic, a two-way street designed for a specific purpose. Think of it like this. First, the plot acts on the character. Story events aren't just random roadblocks. They're targeted pressures. Yeah. They expose the protagonist's strengths, sure. But maybe more importantly, they exploit their weaknesses. They reveal their blind spots. They test their deepest beliefs. The plot basically forces confrontations the character would probably rather avoid, pushing them to their limits.
Right. Makes sense.
But crucially, it's not just a one-way thing. And this is where that symbiosis, that connection gets really deep. Second, the character acts on the plot. Every single choice the protagonist makes, run, fight, confess, lie, whatever it is, in response to these pressures. That choice pushes the story in a particular direction.
So they're shaping it too.
Exactly, often in ways you don't expect. Their choices fundamentally change what happens next. The plot isn't just some fixed path they walk, it's constantly being shaped by who they are, by their will, their nature.
That clarifies the dynamic really well. It's not just reaction, like you said, but an active shaping from both sides. Does the source give any hints about maybe which element usually starts this dialogue? Or are there common traps where one side dominates and breaks that balance?
It suggests the starting point can vary. Sometimes it's plot first, sometimes character. But the absolute key is the deliberate pairing. A really common pitfall, we sort of touched on this, is when the plot becomes just a series of cool events for their own sake.
Right, spectacle.
Yeah, a spectacle that doesn't really matter to the character's internal journey. Or the opposite, you have a character with this fascinating internal stuff going on, But the plot doesn't give them any real test, no fire to forge them in. So the source argues that when one element just dominates, the story loses that organic feeling, that sense that it had to happen this way. Because the audience isn't just watching events unfold, they're experiencing how those events really deeply affect the protagonist. And crucially, how the protagonist's actions then have real meaningful consequences, not just for them, but for the whole story.
Okay, that deepens things quite a bit. Now, this next idea from the source, the character flaw as a bridge, that really strikes me as key to understanding that whole dynamic. It feels like it's more than just, a character having a bad habit or something.
Oh, definitely.
What exactly is a character flaw in this context, and why is it so fundamental to this interwoven story idea?
You're absolutely right. It's much deeper than a personality quirk. Forging unified stories defines the character flaw as a specific, really noticeable behavior or characteristic, but one that stems directly from a protagonist's faulty belief about the world.
A faulty belief. Okay.
Yeah, and this isn't just some minor misunderstanding. It's like a foundational part of their worldview. And the entire story is basically designed meticulously to challenge that specific belief. The eventual change, the transformation of that belief, is what gives the story its ultimate thematic punch, its meaning.
Can you give an example? How does that play out?
Sure. Let's use the source's example.
Yeah.
Imagine a character whose flaw shows up as being overly cautious, like pathologically risk-averse.
Okay.
On the surface, yeah, they just avoid risks. But if you dig down, their caution isn't just a trait. It's rooted in a faulty belief like the world is fundamentally dangerous, and the only way to be safe is to never stick my neck out, never really engage.
Right. I can picture that.
So the story's plot would then throw events at them that are specifically designed to dismantle that belief. Maybe they're forced into a situation where they have to save someone, or they have some goal they desperately need to achieve, but it requires taking huge, terrifying risks, things that go against their core programming. And through these trials, they start to experience not just the consequences of their caution, but maybe the unexpected rewards of pushing past it. So by the end, if the story works, that faulty belief gets transformed. Our cautious character might come to a new understanding, like a life lived totally in fear isn't really a life at all. Or maybe true safety isn't in avoidance, but maybe in connection or courage, something like that.
So it's not just about the character facing their fears. It's like they're rebuilding their whole internal operating system.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm suddenly thinking of like half a dozen movies where the big change felt totally flat because I didn't see that fundamental system reboot you're talking about. And the source makes a key distinction here too, doesn't it? This isn't just about a character like learning a lesson intellectually.
Precisely. It's not a lecture. It's about us witnessing the internal, often really painful, reconstruction of their entire worldview. That deep shift is what truly earns the ending. It makes it feel different from a character just sort of deciding, okay, I'll be brave today.
Right. It has to cost something.
It has to cost something. And the source highlights how this change in their flawed behavior, the outward action, becomes the visible proof of that internal shift. When that faulty belief finally cracks and gives way to a new, healthier understanding, it creates this powerful bridge for the audience. It connects the character's inner journey to the story's bigger theme or lesson. That transformation, that internal journey made visible. That's what tells us what the story means. On its deepest level, it's what makes it stick.
That makes perfect sense. Okay. And it explains why those really strong, meaningful stories feel so cohesive. Like all the pieces belong. The plot isn't just random stuff happening for spectacle. It's specifically designed to test the protagonist, targeting that faulty belief. And the protagonist isn't just some generic person dropped into it. They need this specific experience in some deep way. So when a storyteller actually pulls this off, when they weave plot and character together perfectly, what are the biggest payoffs for us, the audience? What do we get?
Well, when that connection is really clear and strong, forging unified stories points to three key outcomes we experience. First, you get organic conflict. Instead of the writer just throwing trouble at the character to, spice things up.
Random obstacles.
Exactly. Instead, the external events press directly against the character's internal traits, or, more specifically, against that faulty belief. The struggle feels logical, believable, almost inevitable, because it grows right out of who the protagonist fundamentally is. You don't question why this is happening to them. You get it. This is the fire they specifically need to walk through.
Okay. Organic conflict. What else?
Second, you get earned change. Because we've actually seen the protagonist wrestle with their flaw under all this pressure, making tough choices, maybe failing sometimes, but gradually inching towards growth. Their eventual transformation really resonates.
Deeply.
You believe it. You believe it. You've witnessed the hard fight, the often painful process that got them there. So you feel the emotional weight of their journey. It's that powerful moment of catharsis.
Earned change. Got it. And the third.
And finally, you get a cohesive story. The whole narrative just feels incredibly unified. Every element, maybe every subplot, every supporting character, every twist, it all seems to serve and reinforce the central theme and the protagonist's journey.
It all fits.
It all fits. It's not just a collection of interesting but unrelated ideas. It plays like a single, seamless experience. And that's the stark contrast to those scattered stories we talked about at the beginning, the ones that introduce traits. But then the plot never really tests them. Without that logical link between the events and the transformation, the story just rings false. And the audience isn't likely to feel truly moved or invested.
This is such a powerful way to think about why some stories just click, you know, while others just fall flat. So, okay, what does this all mean for you listening, whether you're a storyteller yourself or just someone who really loves to appreciate great narratives? This deep dive has really highlighted the power of this plot-character connection, but how do storytellers actually do it? How do they design them together? What are the practical strategies from forging unified stories for creating this matched set?
Right, the practical side. The core solution, as the source emphasizes, is really treating plot and character as this matched set from the get-go, deliberately creating that symbiotic relationship. It has to be intentional. And the source offers some really great guiding questions depending on where you might be starting your creative process. Are you starting with a plot idea or a character idea?
Okay. So if you start with plot.
If you're starting with a compelling plot idea and maybe a fascinating what-if scenario or a cool series of events you can ask yourself, okay, what specific internal journey could experiencing these events teach someone? Or what kind of person most needs to face this particular challenge?
Needs it. Interesting.
Yeah. Or even better, what deeply ingrained faulty belief does this person hold that this story, this plot, is uniquely designed to confront and maybe transform? So, for example, if your plot is some grand quest through dangerous lands, maybe it's perfectly designed for a character whose faulty belief is, say, I'm utterly alone in the world and I can't rely on anyone.
Right.
The plot then naturally forces them into situations where survival demands connection and trust. The plot serves the character's need.
Okay, that makes sense. And what if you start the other way around, with a character?
Right. If you're starting with a really compelling character concept, maybe someone full of contradictions, or with a deeply held, maybe flawed conviction, then you flip the questions. You'd ask, okay, look at their most defining qualities, especially their flaws, their fears. What's their fundamental faulty belief?
Yeah.
Identify that first. And then you ask, all right, what kind of journey, what specific external pressures would force them to confront those traits head on? What situation would challenge that faulty belief directly and relentlessly? What the source really emphasizes here is that it's often less about finding some totally new challenge and more about finding the challenge that acts like a precise mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, a mirror forcing the character to look squarely at that faulty belief and start dismantling it, maybe brick by painful brick.
Wow, I love that idea, the plot as a precise mirror. It really drives home how deliberate great storytelling is. It's not just luck, it's design. So it really boils down to this, doesn't it? The stories that stick with us, the ones that feel truly resonant and unforgettable, they're the ones where plot and character are just inseparable partners.
Absolutely.
It's those external events pushing and shaping the inner transformation, and it's that internal change that gives the whole external journey its profound meaning. And the theme, that deep truth we take away, is ultimately found in watching that transformation happen.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing plot and character as these separate items on a checklist, think of them as locked in this perpetual, purposeful conversation. So the next time you encounter a story, whether it's a book, a movie, maybe even a compelling news report, I'd encourage you to ask yourself this: how does this plot specifically challenge this protagonist? And crucially, what faulty belief is being tested and transformed here? Finding that powerful intertwined connection and seeing how that transformation ripples through everything, that's what elevates a good story to a truly great one. That's what makes it resonate and just linger in your mind long after it's actually over.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into forging unified stories. We really hope these insights help you experience and appreciate narratives on a whole new level, whether you're consuming them or maybe even thinking about creating your own. Until next time.